Last week, two black people in Burlington arrived home to find that there were KKK posters on their doors. The KKK actually has been a presence in Vermont. It's been a presence in Windham County in the 1980s and early 90s. I can't quite remember. There was a cross burning on the lawn of a black family in Putney. Racism is alive every day, unfortunately, in Vermont and in this country, and the larger message really is that we need to work together for racial justice. We can't be silent when something like this happens in our community or in our state and just pretend that it's not happening, because the only way to create racial justice is to speak back to those efforts of intimidation and to show up so that the individuals who are being targeted aren't just left there on their own to deal with this as though it was like just an individual matter.
Ho ho! The KKK has got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! The KKK has got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! The KKK has got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! The KKK! Ho ho! The KKK has got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! The KKK has got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! Ho ho! The KKK has got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! The KKK! Ho ho! The KKK has got to go! Hey hey!
We're rallying in solidarity with the targeted individuals and the people of Burlington by calling on our communities in Brattleboro to take action to ensure that people of color feel safe in their homes, in the streets, and in the community. We know that Brattleboro has had and continues to have its own share of racism, whether that is anonymous graffiti, discrimination in housing, work and school, or profiling of people of color on the streets and in shops. We are here to say that racism in all forms has no place in our town, in our state, and in our country, and in our world.
It's very, very important that we take responsibility as Vermonters, as United States citizens, and really seek education about the U.S. history of racial justice within this country. It's very, very important.
As a person of color and growing up in Vermont, I've had countless experiences of racism. I remember the days growing up here in Brattleboro, hearing nigger lover, Aunt Jemima, go back to where you came from. Insults all the way home, at the pool, at my games, in my school. I remember the school harassment, the police profiling, and the KKK written on my friend Vanessa's home back in the early 90s, right here in Brattleboro, and the FBI having to get involved. I stand before you tonight to say no to the KKK and yes to racial justice. We must remember that racism perpetuates itself in many different forms right here in the state of Vermont. Disproportionately, black folks continue to raise complaints in the workforce, where often we hear workers of color have been treated differently, harassed, discriminated against, fired, allegedly due to their race, with little or no recourse. Students in schools, and even more so with special needs students of color, are being tracked, harassed, and expelled, creating a straight path to the prison pipeline. In our communities, Black Lives Matter signs are being taken down and vandalized, and people of color are being profiled and followed in stores, and police brutality is a real thing in Vermont. Ask me. Strength and courage for those targeted and all who suffer from this hatred. Hate has no home here. We're divided only because we haven't united. Say no to KKK and yes to racial justice. Thank you.